But as the man's hands, strong, calloused from drafting tables and late-night sketches, hesitated on Isaiah's waist, a flicker of something unfamiliar crossed his face. Not the quiet fire Isaiah had memorized in stolen glances across construction sites, but a shadow deeper, like a blueprint redrawn in haste. He pulled back, eyes wide in the dim light, and murmured, "Isaiah, it's not God. It's not what you think." The words hung there, heavier than the downpour, unraveling everything in a single, gut-wrenching breath. Isaiah froze, the warmth of the kiss turning to ice in his veins. The man before him wasn't Elias Hawthorne, the brilliant architect whose designs whispered promises of stability in a city built on fault lines. No, this was Ezra, the twin brother Isaiah had never met, the ghost in the family photos Elias kept tucked away like forgotten elevations. And in that moment, as the rain wept for them both, Isaiah realized his confession had been a bridge to nowhere, collapsing under the weight of a love built on mirrors and mistaken identities. Isaiah had always chased the lines that held things together. Growing up in the sprawling suburbs of Tacoma, just south of Seattle, he'd sketch bridges in the margins of his notebooks, sturdy spans over the Puget Sound, defying the fog and the tides that pulled everything apart. His father, a welder at the shipyards, called it a fool's dream. "Lines on paper don't keep the world from sinking, son," he'd grunt over dinner, grease-stained hands wrapped around a beer. But Isaiah clung to them anyway, those precise strokes that promised permanence in a life where his mother had vanished one rainy autumn, leaving only echoes and an empty drafting table in the garage. By 28, he'd carved out a niche in Seattle's booming tech-fueled construction scene, consulting on sustainable builds that married glass and green spaces. It was steady work, the kind that paid for his cramped Capitol Hill apartment with its view of the Space Needle piercing the clouds like a defiant needle. Steady but lonely. Dates came and went, quick coffees with baristas who quoted Kerouac, awkward dinners with graphic designers whose eyes wandered to their phones mid-sentence. Isaiah wanted more than fragments. He wanted the architecture of someone who saw the bones beneath the skin. That's when Elias Hawthorne entered the picture, or at least that's how Isaiah remembered it starting. It was late spring, the kind of Seattle day where the sun fights through the gray like it's auditioning for summer. Isaiah was knee-deep in revisions for a mixed-use development in Fremont, a quirky neighborhood of troll sculptures and houseboats bobbing on Lake Union. The project lead, a harried woman named Lena Vasquez from a firm called Evergreen Designs, had roped in Hawthorne architecture for the structural wizardry. "Elias is a genius with curves," she'd said over email, attaching renders that made Isaiah's pulse quicken. The buildings rose like lovers entwined, all fluid lines and hidden supports, whispering of resilience in the face of earthquakes and heartbreak. Their first meeting was in a fluorescent-lit conference room overlooking the ship canal, the air thick with the scent of fresh coffee and printer ink. Elias arrived 10 minutes late, shaking rain from his wool coat. His dark hair tousled as if he'd wrestled the wind on the drive from his Ballard office. He was 32, with the kind of face that could launch 1,000 Pinterest boards. High cheekbones, a jawline sharp enough to cut glass, and hazel eyes that shifted like the light on water, green-flecked and knowing. He extended a hand, calluses rough from pencils and models, and smiled in a way that crinkled the corners of his eyes. "Isaiah Reed? Lena's told me about your green roof ideas. They're bold. I like bold." Isaiah shook his hand, feeling the warmth linger like an afterimage. "Just trying to make the city breathe a little easier," he replied, his voice steadier than he felt. They dove into the plans, Elias leaning over the table, his fingers tracing elevations with a precision that bordered on caress. He challenged Isaiah's specs, not harshly, but with a spark, like he was drawing him out, layer by layer. By the end of the hour, the room felt smaller, charged, as if the blueprints between them were alive. Over the next weeks, their collaboration deepened. Site visits became rituals. Clambering over rebar skeletons in the drizzle, Elias sketching adjustments on napkins from the food trucks lining the canal. He'd talk about his inspirations. Frank Lloyd Wright's organic flows, the brutalist honesty of Tadao Ando, and Isaiah would counter with tales of his Tacoma roots, the industrial grit that made him crave spaces that healed. Elias listened, really listened, his gaze holding Isaiah's a beat too long, stirring something dormant in Isaiah's chest. Was it the way Elias's laugh rumbled low when Isaiah cracked a joke about Seattle's endless gray? Or the quiet vulnerability when he admitted, over burritos at a taqueria in Wallingford, "Architecture's my anchor, man. Lost my folks young. Designs are the family I build now." Isaiah nodded, throat tight. He knew that ache, the way loss etched lines into your foundation. "Yeah," he said softly. "Me too." Their knees brushed under the table, accidental at first, then not. Isaiah told himself it was the project adrenaline, the thrill of creation. But late at night, alone in his apartment with the hum of the fridge and the distant wail of fairies, he'd replay those moments, heart racing. Elias was straight, probably, engaged once, he'd mention offhand, though it ended in whispers Isaiah didn't press. Still, the pull was there, magnetic, undeniable. One evening, after a grueling day wrangling permits at City Hall, Elias texted, "Drinks? Need to unwind before I redraw that atrium for the 10th time." They met at a dive in Queen and, all exposed brick and craft IPAs, the kind of place where locals nursed grudges against the rain. Elias slid into the booth, loosening his tie, and ordered whiskeys neat. "To faulty foundations," he toasted, clinking glasses. As the amber liquid burned down, conversation flowed freer, Elias confessing his fear of the project scale, Isaiah admitting his stalled novel about a bridge builder's quiet unraveling. Elias's eyes softened. "You should finish it. Sounds like it has heart." Heart. The word hung between them, and Isaiah felt exposed, as if Elias had seen the sketches he hid in his nightstand. Not buildings, but portraits, Elias's face in charcoal, lines blurring into something intimate. He drained his glass, the whiskey warming the edges of his resolve. "Elias, But the words caught, and instead he laughed it off, blaming the hour. Elias clapped his shoulder, grip lingering. "Whatever it is, Reed, you've got time." Time. It became their unspoken pact. Weeks blurred into summer, the project surging forward under their tandem vision. Isaiah found excuses to linger at Elias's office, a converted warehouse in Ballard with exposed beams and models of unbuilt dreams scattered like relics. Elias's assistant, a sharp-witted guy named Theo, would smirk knowingly as Isaiah arrived with revisions that were mostly coffee runs. One afternoon, rain pattering the skylights, Elias pulled him into a mock-up room, a half-scale atrium glowing under LED strips. "What do you think?" Elias asked, voice low, as if the space held secrets. Isaiah stepped inside, the walls curving around him like an embrace. "It's perfect," he breathed, turning to find Elias inches away, hazel eyes reflecting the light, their breaths mingled, the air thick with possibility. Isaiah's hand twitched, aching to bridge the gap, but Elias stepped back, clearing his throat. "Good. Let's lock it in." The moment shattered, but the fragments lodged in Isaiah's heart, sharp and insistent. He started avoiding the what-ifs, pouring himself into the work. But avoidance only amplified the longing. Late shifts at the site, watching cranes etch silhouettes against the sunset, Isaiah imagined Elias beside him. Not as colleague, but confidant, lover. The fantasies crept in, hands mapping spines instead of schematics, whispers in the dark about fears no blueprint could fix. It was torture, exquisite and American in its quiet desperation, the dream of connection in a city of strangers. Then came the twins' shadow. Elias mentioned his brother once, in passing, during a lunch at a faux spot in the International District. "Ezra's the wild one," he said, slurping noodles. "Identical, but you'd know the difference in a heartbeat. He's got this edge, like he designs with dynamite." Isaiah laughed, picturing a darker mirror, but filed it away. Family was sacred ground he wouldn't tread. Little did he know the ground was already shifting. Unbeknownst to Isaiah, Ezra had been in Seattle for months, crashing at Elias's loft after a messy breakup in Portland. The twins, thick as thieves since their parents' car wreck a decade ago, shared more than blood. Clothes, cars, even alibis. Ezra, a freelance graphic designer with a penchant for late nights and loose lips, had borrowed Elias's life more than once. Picking up dry cleaning, fielding calls from contractors. It was harmless, or so they thought. The first mix-up happened innocently enough. Isaiah, running behind for a consult, arrived at the loft, Elias's home base for overflow work, to find the door ajar. Inside, a man who could have been Elias poured coffee, back turned, humming an indie track Isaiah recognized from Elias's playlist. "Elias? Got those elevation tweaks?" Isaiah called, stepping in. The man turned, smiling that same crinkle-eyed grin, and waved him to the drafting table. They talked for hours. Curves, cantilevers, the poetry of load-bearing walls. The man, Ezra, though Isaiah never suspected, leaned in with Elias's intensity, challenging, charming. When Isaiah left, buzzing, he texted the real Elias. "Great session. You're a wizard." Elias replied, "Wasn't home today. Must be magic." Isaiah chalked it up to fatigue, the rain playing tricks. But the encounters multiplied. Elias at the site, handing out hard hats with a wink. Another at the bar, buying rounds with stories that echoed Elias's cadence but veered wilder, laced with humor that left Isaiah breathless. Each time, the pull intensified, the lines between reality and desire blurring like fog on the sound. By fall, as leaves turned the park's gold, Isaiah couldn't deny it. He was in love with Elias, or the version of him pieced from these stolen hours. The project neared completion, a gleaming structure rising over Fremont like a beacon. Celebration loomed, but so did the end. Isaiah needed to confess, to draw the line before it vanished. He chose the loft, that rainy October night, steeling himself with a walk through Pike Place. The market's bustle a reminder of life's messy abundance. Fishmongers hawked salmon, street musicians strummed covers of Fleetwood Mac. Go your own way, the irony biting. Back at the loft, key borrowed from a forgotten drop-off weeks prior, Isaiah waited. The door opened, and there he was, Elias, or so he believed, coat dripping, eyes weary from the storm. The confession poured out, raw and unfiltered, ending in that kiss. A collision of hope and hunger. And then, the unraveling. "It's not Elias," the man said again, stepping back, face paling. "I'm Ezra, his brother." The world tilted, Seattle's skyline spinning beyond the glass. Isaiah's knees buckled, the blueprints of his heart crumpling. Betrayal? No, worse, a farce, a love letter addressed to the wrong ghost. Ezra reached out, but Isaiah recoiled, the taste of the kiss souring to ash. "How long?" Isaiah demanded, voice a whisper shout over the rain. "How many times did I?" "3, maybe 4, Ezra admitted, rubbing his neck, guilt etching lines into his face that mirrored Elias's so perfectly it hurt. "He asked me to cover sometimes. Deadlines, you know? I didn't mean, Isaiah, that kiss, it wasn't fake. You're..." "Stop." Isaiah bolted for the door, the storm swallowing him whole. He ran through the sheets of rain, streets slick with neon reflections, heart a fractured elevation. Home was miles away, but distance meant nothing now. He'd built a castle on sand, confessed to a shadow. That night, curled on his couch with the city lights mocking him through the blinds, Isaiah wept. Not for the mistake, but for the truth it unearthed. Love wasn't lines on paper. It was the risk of collapse. And his foundation, it was cracking wide open. The days after the confession blurred into a haze of regret and revision. Isaiah called in sick to the site, claiming flu, but it was the kind that settled in the bones, a fever of what-ifs. His apartment, usually a sanctuary of half-read architecture journals and vinyl records spinning Bon Iver, felt like a cage. He paced the creaky hardwood, phone clutched like a lifeline he couldn't dial. Text Elias? Demand answers from Ezra? Or vanish into the ether? Another Seattle ghost dissolving in the mist? By noon on the second day, the itch won. He showered, the hot water scalding away the phantom taste of lips that weren't Elias's, and drove to Evergreen Designs. Lena's office was a whirlwind of mood boards and caffeine-fueled chatter, but she clocked his pallor immediately. "Reed, you look like hell. Project jitters or boy troubles?" She was direct like that, a Latina powerhouse who'd clawed her way from community college to corner office. No patience for bullshit. "Both?" Isaiah muttered, sinking into a chair. She poured him espresso from her ancient machine, the steam curling like unanswered questions. Over the bitter brew, he spilled it. Not the kiss, not the twin, but the confession's fallout. "I told him, Lena, and now, it's like the whole structure's compromised." She leaned back, tapping a pen against her lip. "Elias? Damn, Isaiah. He's solid, but I've seen him dodge personal blueprints like they're seismic faults." She paused, eyes narrowing. "Wait, you confessed at his place?" "He mentioned something about a mix-up with Ezra crashing there. Twins, right? Creepy how identical they are." Isaiah's stomach dropped. So it wasn't just him, the office knew. "Ezra," he echoed, the name tasting like regret. "Yeah, met him once, I think. Or more." Lena's laugh was kind, not mocking. "Ezra's the chaos to Elias's calm. Freelancer, always hopping gigs. But listen, if it's real, fight for it. Seattle's full of bridges, build one." She shoved a stack of final approvals his way. Starting with this. Work became his mortar. He threw himself into punch lists, inspecting HVAC installs, tweaking irrigation for the green roofs that crowned the building like verdant halos. The Fremont project, now dubbed Cascade Commons, was a marvel, retail below, lofts above, all woven with Elias's sinuous steel and Isaiah's eco-integrations. Standing on the roof one crisp afternoon, wind whipping his jacket, Isaiah traced the skyline. The Space Needle loomed playful, the Olympics hazy blue in the distance. This city, with its layers of rain and reinvention, had taught him resilience. Maybe love could too. But resilience cracked under scrutiny. That evening, as dusk painted the canal violet, Isaiah's phone buzzed. "Unknown number. It's Ezra. Can we talk?" Coffee, neutral ground. No strings. He stared at the screen, thumb hovering. Part of him wanted to block, to erase the error. But curiosity, that architect's curse, won. "Tomorrow. Elliott Bay Book Company. 10 a.m. The bookstore cafe overlooked the waterfront. Shelves groaning with tomes on Pacific Northwest lore and LGBTQ plus memoirs that Isaiah had browsed in quieter days. Ezra arrived early, nursing a black coffee, his frame slouched in a corner booth. Up close, in daylight, the differences sharpened. Ezra's hair longer, curling at the nape. A scar faint on his left temple from a skateboarding wipeout Elias lacked. Eyes the same hazel, but flecked with more gold, like sunlight-piercing storm clouds. He stood as Isaiah approached, hands in pockets, posture apologetic. "Isaiah, thanks for coming." His voice was Elias's timbre, but softer, laced with Portland's lingering drawl. They sat, the air thick with the scent of fresh pages and sea salt. Ezra jumped in, words tumbling. "First, I'm sorry. For everything. Elias didn't tell me about us or whatever this is. I thought I was just helping out, covering a meeting here, a call there. But then I met you and shit, you were electric. The way you talk about spaces like they're alive, it pulled me in." Isaiah sipped his latte, the foam bitter on his tongue. "Pulled you in?" "Ezra, I thought you were him. Every time. The sketches, the laughs, it was Elias I fell for. His mind, his quiet storm." He paused, heat rising. "And the kiss? That was meant for him. Not some stand-in." Ezra winced, but held his gaze. "I know. And I kissed back because, yeah, it felt real. But I'm not Elias. Never was." He leaned forward, elbows on the scarred wood table. "My brother's the planner, the one who builds to last. Me? I'm the sketch that gets erased. Broke up with my guy 6 months ago. Guy named Riley, bartender in Alberta Arts District. Thought Seattle was a reset. Crashing with Elias was supposed to be temporary." The honesty disarmed Isaiah, cracking his defenses. "Why tell me now? Guilt?" "Partly." Ezra's smile was wry, self-deprecating. "And because I like you, Isaiah. Not as Elias's proxy. As you." The guy who sees the poetry in rebar. He slid a napkin across, doodling a quick curve, a bridge arch simple but evocative. No expectations. Just, don't let this bury you. They talked for hours, the cafe emptying around them. Ezra shared stories. The twins' childhood in Eugene, Oregon, racing bikes through Willamette Valley orchards. The wreck that stole their parents, leaving Elias to raise Ezra through community college scholarships and grit. He's my rock, Ezra said, voice thickening. But he holds back, afraid to crack. Isaiah nodded, the parallel stinging. His own losses, mother's abandonment, father's slow fade into dementia, mirrored that guardedness. I get it. Love's the ultimate unknown variable. As they parted, Ezra's hand brushed his, a question, not a claim. Isaiah pulled away gently. Friends? He asked, testing the word. For now, Ezra replied, eyes warm. Build from there. The encounter lingered, a new line in Isaiah's blueprint. He drove home via the 520 bridge, the lake below shimmering like molten silver. At his desk, he pulled out his novel, fingers flying over keys for the first time in months. Words flowed. A protagonist confessing to a phantom, only to find truth in the reflection. It was cathartic, raw. But the real world intruded. The next day at the site, Elias was there, finally, unmistakably him, directing welders with clipped efficiency. No scar, hair neatly combed, presence like a lodestone. Isaiah's heart lurched, a mix of ache and anger. They nodded across the scaffolding, professional frost coating the air. During a break, Elias approached, clipboard in hand. Heard about the loft. Ezra filled me in. Isaiah, not now. Isaiah cut in, voice low. Work first. Feelings later. Elias's jaw tightened, but he nodded, retreating. The distance burned. Every shared glance a reminder of stolen intimacies. Weeks passed in this tense equilibrium. Cascade Commons topped out. The final beam hoisted amid cheers and hard hats tossed skyward. The team celebrated at a brewpub in Ballard, frothy pints and platters of truffle fries flowing. Lena pulled Isaiah aside, whispering, Make your move, Reed. Life's too short for seismic denials. Emboldened, he found Elias at the bar, nursing a stout. Elias? Isaiah started, the pub's hum fading. The confession, it was real. For you. But your brother. He wore your face too well. Elias set down his glass, eyes searching. I know. Ezra's sorry. Hell, I'm sorry for not seeing it sooner. You've been integral, Isaiah, to the project. To me. His hand grazed Isaiah's on the bar, electric. Dinner? My place. No twins this time. Promise. Isaiah's pulse thundered. Yeah, dinner. The meal was at the loft, rain pattering like applause. Elias cooked, seared salmon with herb crust, a nod to his Oregon roots. Candlelight dancing on wine glasses. They talked, barriers crumbling. Elias admitting his engagement's failure to a woman named Clara, how it masked his own questions about desire. I see you, Isaiah. The way you build, the way you look at me. It's terrifying. Beautiful. After dessert, chocolate torte, decadent and shared, Elias leaned in, kiss tentative, then deepening. It was Elias. The quiet fire, the steady hand. Isaiah melted into it, months of longing igniting. They moved to the couch, clothes shedding like old schematics, bodies mapping uncharted territories. Elias's touch was deliberate, reverent. Fingers tracing Isaiah's collarbone, lips whispering affirmations against skin. Stay, Elias murmured as they tangled in sheets. The storm outside a symphony to their rhythm. Morning brought coffee and clarity. Elias, hair mussed, smiled over mugs. This us. It's a new foundation. Isaiah believed him, the warmth chasing shadows. But shadows lingered. Ezra texted, heard it went well. Happy for you both. Beers soon? Isaiah replied yes, the triad forming uneasy but inevitable. The twins were two sides of a coin Isaiah now flipped daily. Elias's depth, Ezra's spark. He didn't question the pull to both. Love, he was learning. Wasn't singular lines but a network, resilient and sprawling. Cascade Commons open to fanfare. Ribbon cutting with local Pauls. Media buzzing about eco-innovations. Isaiah and Elias stood side by side, hands brushing in the crowd. A secret architecture blooming. Ezra attended, clapping from the sidelines, his grin genuine. Later, over victory laps at the opening gala. Cocktails in the atrium, jazz trio crooning standards. Elias pulled Isaiah into a shadowed alcove. "Proud of you," he said, kissing him fiercely. "Of us." The high-crested, but fault lines simmered. Isaiah noticed Elias's flinches at public affection. The way he'd pull back if a colleague lingered. "Not ready," Elias explained one night, post-coital glow fading. "The industry's conservative. And me, still figuring the labels." Isaiah nodded, but doubt seated. Was this solidity, or just another span waiting to buckle? Ezra became the counterweight, their beers turning confessional. At a dive in Georgetown, industrial chic with graffiti walls, Ezra opened up. "Elias loves hard, but he fears the quake. After the accident, he rebuilt us. Can't risk another fall." Isaiah shared his novel's progress, pages piling like emotional scaffolding. Ezra's encouragement was fire to Elias's hearth. "Burn it down and start over," he'd say, eyes alight. One crisp November evening, the trio converged at the loft for game night. Elias's idea, bridging worlds. Board games devolved to stories. Twins reenacting childhood pranks. Isaiah recounting Tacoma escapades. Laughter flowed, wine loosening tongues. As midnight neared, Ezra crashed on the couch, leaving Isaiah and Elias to their bed. But in the dark, Elias whispered doubts. "Ezra's too close. He sees too much." Jealousy? Isaiah wondered, but dismissed it. The crisis brewed subtly. Isaiah's novel hit a wall. Protagonist confessing to the wrong twin, mirrors shattering. Fiction bleeding into fact. At work, rumors swirled. A rival firm sniffing for talent. Lena warning of poaches. Elias grew distant, late nights at the office. "Deadlines," he'd say, but his eyes evaded. Then the betrayal's first tremor. Isaiah arrived unannounced at the loft, novel draft in hand for Elias's read. Door ajar, voices within Elias and Ezra, arguing low. "You can't keep blurring us," Elias hissed. "Isaiah thinks he knows me, but it's your chaos he's chasing half the time." Ezra's laugh was bitter. "Maybe he wants both. Ever think you're the one hiding, brother?" Isaiah slipped away, heart pounding, the draft forgotten in the rain. Home, he poured whiskey, the burn-fueling fury. Betrayal. Not just the mix-up, but this. Twins trading truths like blueprints, his love a pawn in their symmetry. Sleep evaded, dawn breaking gray. He texted Elias, "We need to talk. Now." The reply came swift. "Loft. Come over." Their face-to-face accusations flew. "How long have you known about the switches?" Isaiah demanded, voice raw. Elias paled. "A month," Ezra confessed after the kiss. "I thought space would fix it." Space? Or sabotage? Isaiah's eyes stung. "You let me believe it was you, then pulled back. Afraid I'd see the cracks." Elias reached, but Isaiah stepped away. "It's not that. I love you, Isaiah. But Ezra, he's always been the one who leaps. I'm the planner, remember? And planning means protecting." From the doorway, Ezra appeared, disheveled. "Protecting yourself, you mean?" The twins locked eyes, old wounds reopening. Isaiah's world fractured further. "I confessed to a ghost. Loved a mosaic." He turned, leaving them in the ruins, Seattle's rain his only companion. Healing? It started fractured, in the quiet aftermath. Isaiah dove into the novel, words a salve. Lena promoted him, a new project in South Lake Union beckoning. Dates? None yet, but coffee with a sculptor named Kai sparked tentative light. The twins? Radio silence at first, then a letter from Elias, handwritten, elevations sketched in margins. "I'm dismantling the mirrors. Therapy, boundaries, miss your lines." Ezra followed with a sketch. Three figures bridging a chasm. Labeled us? Isaiah stared at them, heart a blueprint redrawn. Forgiveness wasn't erasure. It was reinforcement. Seattle's faults ran deep, but so did its spans. Winter clamped down on Seattle like a vice, the gray deepening to slate, holidays twinkling defiant against the solstice dark. Isaiah threw himself into the South Lake Union gig, a high-rise for a tech startup, all smart glass and vertical gardens. Its sterile ambition a balm to his bruised ego. Mornings started at the gym in his building, pounding treadmills to synthwave beats, sweat exorcising the twins' ghosts. Evenings bled into his novel, now a sprawling manuscript titled Mirrored Spans, the protagonist navigating twin betrayals toward uneasy grace. His editor, a no-nonsense queer woman named Marisol from a small press in Belltown, emailed praise. This has teeth. Lean into the ache. But ache lingered, insidious. Grocery runs at the co-op on Broadway unearthed memories. Elias's favorite IPA in the craft aisle, Ezra's penchant for spicy ramen packets mocking from the international section. Capitol Hill, with its rainbow crosswalks and dive bars pulsing with drag shows, felt like a minefield of what could have beens. Isaiah stuck to routines. Yoga at a studio overlooking Lake Washington. Brunches with Lena dissecting industry gossip. "You're glowing, Reed," she'd say, forking eggs Benedict. "Breakup blues or breakthrough?" "Both," he'd quip, but inside, the scales tipped toward breakthrough. Therapy helped. A counselor named Dr. Patel, with a gentle baritone and office walls lined in mandala prints. Sessions unpacked the maternal void, the paternal silence, how they'd wired Isaiah to chase unavailable loves. "You're drawn to architects because they promise structure," Dr. Patel observed one sleety afternoon. "But love's more like your green roofs. Layered, adaptive, messy." Messy. The word echoed when Elias's texts resumed, sporadic at first. "Saw your name on the SLU bid. Crushing it?" Isaiah replied neutrally, walls high. Ezra's were bolder. "Read about your book deal buzz. Beers to celebrate? No drama." Temptation gnawed, but he demurred, citing deadlines. The dam broke at Yule, the solstice party Lena hosted in her Queen and Victorian. A potluck of queer architects and engineers, fairy lights strung like structural cables. Isaiah arrived with mulled wine and a gingerbread replica of Cascade Commons, its roof dusted sugar snow. The house thrummed. Indie folk on the stereo, laughter ricocheting off crown molding. He was mid-conversation with a lighting designer named Finn, tall, freckled, with a laugh like wind chimes, when Elias walked in. Time stuttered. Elias, in a cable-knit sweater hugging his frame, hair silvered by frost, scanned the room until his eyes locked on Isaiah. A smile flickered, tentative, then bloomed. He wove through, murmuring hellos, until he reached Isaiah, Finn fading politely. "Hey, the gingerbread spot on. Miss working with you." Isaiah's throat tightened, the air scented with pine and cinnamon. "Miss the chaos," he admitted, then glanced at Finn across the room. "Seeing someone?" Elias followed his gaze, expression clouding. "No. You. Testing waters." The honesty stung sweet. They talked shop at first, the SLU project's adaptive reuse elements mirroring Cascade's ethos. Then deeper. Elias's therapy. Boundaries with Ezra now ironclad. No more swaps. He's in Portland again, gig with Nike. Says hi. A pause. Heavy. "I messed up, Isaiah. Let fear draft our lines. Won't happen again." Before Isaiah could respond, Ezra burst through the door. Uninvited, or so it seemed. Trailing snow and a six-pack of hazy IPAs. "Surprise, assholes. Thought I'd crash the solstice." His grin was megawatt, but eyes darted, gauging. Hugs ensued, the trio a knot amid the party swirl. Ezra clapped Isaiah's back. "Heard about the book. Proud, man." The night unfolded in eddies. Group charades devolving to Truth or Dare. Isaiah daring Elias to karaoke Tiny Dancer. Elton's plea for connection hitting too close. Ezra dared Isaiah to share a novel excerpt, his voice steady reading lines of fractured love. Applause rippled, But it was the twins' gazes, Elias's tender, Ezra's electric, that anchored him. Later, on Lena's back porch, snow flurrying soft, the three huddled under a heat lamp, breaths fogging. To rebuilds, Ezra toasted with a stolen flask of bourbon. They clinked mugs, silence companionable until Elias spoke. Isaiah, Ezra and I talked. About us. All of us. His hand found Isaiah's under the blanket, warm. Sure. If you're open. Poly, maybe? Or just exploring the spans. Isaiah's heart cartwheeled. The proposal a bridge he'd half-sketched in dreams. Polyamory wasn't new to Seattle's scene. Friends navigated it with apps and agreements. But with twins? The symmetry thrilled and terrified. Ezra leaned in, shoulder brushing. No pressure. But I'd build with you, Isaiah. Both ways. The kiss that followed was inevitable. Elias first, soft and searching. Then Ezra joining, a trinity of lips and whispers. It was experimental, electric. Hands exploring boundaries, breaths mingling in the cold. Not full surrender, but a promise, lines converging. January brought the experiment's architecture. They dated separately first. Isaiah and Elias at the Seattle Art Museum, wandering exhibits of Calder mobiles, poised chaos, ending in tangled sheets at Elias's, now twin-free. With Ezra, it was rawer, hikes in Discovery Park, salt air sharpening appetites, crashing at Isaiah's with takeout Thai and marathon viewings of Queer as Folk reboots. Together, triads formed organically. Brunches at Le Panier, croissants flaking as they planned a weekend in the San Juans. But conflict brewed in the joints. Elias's reserve clashed with Ezra's fire. A dinner at a farm-to-table in Madrona turned tense when Ezra flirted overtly, Elias withdrawing into silence. Boundaries, Elias muttered later, alone with Isaiah. He's pushing. He's living, Isaiah countered, frustration spiking. And you're pulling back. Like always. The argument escalated, words like load-bearers failing. Accusations of favoritism, fears of erasure. Isaiah stormed out, walking Fremont's troll-haunted streets, the concrete troll under the bridge a metaphor for hidden loves. Reconciliation came halting. A group therapy session Dr. Patel recommended. The twins flying in a counselor versed in ethical non-monogamy. In the circle, vulnerabilities surfaced. Elias's orphan's terror of loss, Ezra's post-breakup recklessness, Isaiah's pattern of overbuilding to compensate. We're not symmetric, Isaiah realized aloud. We're a mosaic, cracks and all. Spring thawed the rifts. Isaiah's novel sold, mirrored spans hitting shelves with a launch at Elliott Bay. Elias and Ezra in the front row, toasting with champagne. Reviews praised its tender humanism. The queer heart beating raw. Success buoyed them, but success invites scrutiny. At an industry mixer in Pioneer Square, whispers slithered. Hawthorne's boyfriends? Twins. Elias overheard, face ashen, retreating to the loft alone. Isaiah followed, Ezra trailing. The confrontation was seismic. They're talking, Elias said, pacing voice-edged. My firm's conservative clients. They'll bolt. Ezra rolled eyes. Let them. Or own it. It's not that simple, Elias snapped. You leap, I land. Always have. Isaiah intervened, hands on both. Then land with us. Or we all fall. The silence stretched. Then Elias nodded, tears tracking. Okay, us. But the quake hit harder. Weeks later, a client pulled a bid, whispers of distractions in the email. Elias blamed himself, spiraling into overtime, distance growing. Intimacy fractured. Dates canceled. Touches tentative. Isaiah and Ezra connected fiercer in the void. Nights at Ezra's temporary sublet in Capitol Hill. Bodies a refuge. Guilt gnawed Isaiah. Was he favoring the flame over the forge? The crisis peaked mid-May, lilacs blooming defiant. Isaiah discovered emails, Elias pitching solo to the client, sidelining their joint vision. Rebuilding alone? Isaiah confronted, printouts trembling. The loft reeked of takeout and tension, Ezra mediating from the sidelines. Not sidelining, Elias protested, but eyes guilty. Protecting the firm. Us. Bullshit. Ezra exploded. You're scared. Of them, of us. The twins clashed, years of enmeshment erupting. Fists clenched, voices raw. Isaiah watched, heart splintering, the mosaic shattering. I can't, Isaiah whispered, backing away. This isn't building. It's demolition. He left, the doors click echoing like a final revision. Summer loomed, empty. Isaiah sublet a cabin in the Cascades. Novel tour taking him to Portland readings, where fans dissected twin metaphors. Ezra called daily, voice cracked. He's punishing himself. Come back. Elias's were rarer. Please wrapped in apologies. Forgive my faults. Healing was solitary first. Hikes through fern-choked trails, journals filling with affirmations. Love isn't possession. It's permission to span. Back in Seattle, he met Kai again, the sculptor, steady, singular. Their connection was simple. Museum dates, clay-smeared studios, no mirrors. Yet the twins pulled gravitational. A call from Lena. Elias's firm teetering, depression deepening. Isaiah relented, visiting the loft. Elias, unshaven, broken. I pushed you away to save us. Failed. Ezra arrived, truce in his eyes. We rebuild. Together or not. Isaiah chose grace. Together. But new lines. Therapy, transparency. No solos. The pact sealed with touches. Forgiving, fierce. Summer's heat forged them. Beach days at Alki. Bonfires where stories mended. Elias opened. Vulnerability his new blueprint. Ezra tempered. Patience a skill. Isaiah anchored, his love the keystone. By August, the triad solidified, not perfect, but profound. Cascade Commons thrived, a testament. Isaiah's book climbed charts, humanistic core resonating. In quiet moments, bodies entwined, they whispered futures. A shared home in Fremont, designs collaborative. But humanity's depth lies in fragility. One autumn eve, as leaves gilded the parks, Elias proposed expansion. Not rings, but rituals. A year, us three. Span it? Isaiah, heart full, nodded. Ezra grinned. The bridge held, lines eternal. Autumn's palette swept Seattle in golds and crimsons, the air crisp with the promise of change. But for Isaiah, the season carried the weight of reconstruction. The Triad's agreement, a year of intentional building, started tentatively, like pouring footings in uncertain soil. They drafted it over takeout pad CEW at Isaiah's apartment, the document a hybrid of legal pad scribbles and shared Google Doc. Weekly check-ins, monthly getaways, veto power on major decisions. No more ghosts, Elias insisted, pen scratching firm. Ezra added flair. A clause for spontaneous adventures. His wink diffusing tension. Isaiah mediated, his novelist's eye ensuring emotional clauses. Vulnerability shares, no unspoken elevations. The first months tested mortar. Elias's firm stabilized with a boutique resort bid in the Olympics, pulling him to Port Angeles for site surveys. Absences bred insecurity. Isaiah and Ezra's rhythm, easy incendiary, felt like favoritism to Elias. A video call from the peninsula caught him withdrawn. Fairy horns blaring behind. Having fun without me? The tease masked hurt. We're bridging, Isaiah soothed, camera panning to Ezra mid-burnt toast. Your turn next, Ezra chimed. Miss your planning. Bro, chaos needs order. It worked marginally, but the seed of doubt sprouted. Isaiah's book tour amplified strains. Mirrored spans resonated. Panels in San Francisco dissecting polyqueerness. Fans gushing over the twins' allegory. In a Castro bookstore, Q&A veered personal. Is it autobiographical? The betrayal arc? Gut-wrenching. Isaiah paused, lights hot. Inspired by life. Love's not linear. It's seismic. And healing? That's the real plot twist. Back home, the high clashed with domestic grit. Laundry piles mingled in the loft. Elias's button-down starched. Ezra's tees tie-dyed from a workshop. Shared calendars synced rendezvous, but overlaps sparked friction. Elias's therapy clashing with a triad hike. Priorities, he grumbled, rescheduling solo. Isaiah felt the pull, torn between flame and forge. Ezra ignited sparks, literally at a glass-blowing class in Pioneer Square, where they shaped orbs molten and mutable. Sweat slicked, hands guiding pipes, their banter flowed. Like us? Ezra murmured, blowing a bubble that swelled, fragile. Later, in the cooling studio, they made love against the workbench, urgent, unscripted. Elias joined post-session, the trio debriefing over foe, but his quiet rankled. You two glow, he admitted later in bed. I feel supplemental. The confession cracked open a vein. Isaiah held him, Ezra flanking. Essential, Isaiah whispered. You're the keystone. They reaffirmed that night, bodies a diagram of devotion. Slow, synchronized, whispers weaving safety nets. November's Thanksgiving tested gratitude's limits. They hosted at the Loft, inviting Lena and Theo, Dr. Patel as wildcard. Turkey roasted, stuffing vegan for Isaiah's lapsed phase. Pies from a black-owned bakery in Central District. Laughter abounded, Theo's impressions of stuffy clients. Lena's toasts to found families. But post-feast, in the kitchen cleanup, Elias cornered Isaiah. Ezra flirted with Theo. Again. Jealousy, raw. He flirts with air. Isaiah deflected, suds foaming. Talk to him. The confrontation came post-pumpkin pie. Balcony overlooking Ballard locks. Salmon leaping silver. Boundaries, Ezra, Elias said, voice edged. Not just words, actions. Ezra bristled. Locks rush underscoring. I'm not cheating. It's play. You used to laugh. Used to. The twins' history surfaced. Elias mothering post-rec. Ezra rebelling. Isaiah mediated, Salmon's arc mirroring. We're not kids. Communicate. Don't combust. Resolution simmered in vulnerability. Elias admitting orphan's scarcity mindset. Ezra his fear of Elias's withdrawal echoing parental loss. Isaiah shared novel's epilogue draft, trio spanning, not symmetric but strong. Tears fell, hugs ceiling. Grateful. They chorused, locks churning below. December deepened intimacy. Holiday markets at Fremont Fair, wreath-scented pine. Stalls hawking queer art, sparked rituals. Custom ornaments etched with initials I. A getaway to Leavenworth, Bavarian village twinkling. Snowshoeing trails where confessions cascaded. In a cabin jacuzzi, bubbles churning, Elias opened. I love you both, differently but whole. Ezra, vulnerable. Scared you'll leave if I burn too bright. Isaiah, anchor. We adapt, like the spans. But external quakes loomed. Elias's Olympic bid won, but with strings, relocation clause to Forks, remote, isolating. 6 months max, he assured. But Isaiah's gut twisted. Distance in Poly? A fault line. Ezra, gig hopping to LA for animation added miles. Temporary, they vowed, but tours pulled Isaiah south to LA readings, Joshua Tree retreats. January's fracture hit swift. Isaiah in Palm Springs for a lit fest, panel on queer futures. When Elias called, Ezra's ex, Riley, showed up, drunk at the Loft. Stirred shit. Details trickled. Accusations of stealing Ezra. Old wounds ripped. Isaiah, poolside, heart sinking, booked red eye. Landing in SeaTac dawn, he cabbed to the Loft, finding Ezra hungover, Elias pacing. What happened?
Isaiah demanded, dropping back.
Riley's ghost. Texts unearthed. Ezra's late-night replies, just friends. Elias felt betrayed anew. You promised transparency. Ezra defended. Ancient history. He crashed. Needed ear. The triad teetered. Isaiah, jet-lagged, exploded. We're building, not burying. Secrets are termites. Accusations flew, Elias's control, Ezra's impulsivity, Isaiah's absences enabling. Maybe we're mismatched foundations, Isaiah whispered, voice breaking. Silence entombed. Isaiah fled to his apartment, novel stalled, therapy solo. Dr. Patel probed. What do you need? Clarity, Isaiah journaled. Not perfection, presence. Weeks of space. Polite texts, no touches. Isaiah dated casually. Kai rekindled. Dinners at canless city lights romantic. But hollowness persisted. The twins were etched. Lines indelible. Reentry sparked at Valentine's. Ironic. Ezra's card arrived. Sketch of 3 hearts bridged. Note. Missed the mosaic. Elias's. Blueprint of a home, labeled ours? Isaiah's resolve cracked. He invited them to the sculpture garden, Olympic grounds stark winter white. Under the eagle statue sentinel they circled. I need us intentional, Isaiah started. Therapy together.
No ex ghosts, no solo beats.
Nods, hands linking. Rebuild. Elias asked. From ruins rose renewal. Spring's equinox marked recommit. A weekend in Victoria, British Columbia. Ferries slicing Salish Sea. Gardens bloomed, tulips riot. High tea formal folly. Nights in the Empress, bodies reaffirming. Gentle with Elias, wild with Ezra, harmonious all. Conversations deepened. Elias exploring fluid labels. Ezra journaling boundaries. Isaiah leading check-ins. Cascade Commons 1-year anniversary gala showcased triumphs. Awards for sustainability. Isaiah keynoting on human-centered design. Twins flanked, pride palpable. Post-speech in the atrium's glow. Elias kissed him public, brief, bold. Ezra followed, hands squeezed defiant. Whispers be damned. They spanned. But climax brewed in summer's heat. Elias's forks move loomed, firm demanding. Go, Isaiah urged, but heart clenched. Ezra's LA gig extended, pilot season buzz. Distance tested. Video dates fragmented, jealousy flaring via text. Wish you were here, Ezra messaged from set. Selfie sun-kissed. Elias. Cabin fever. Miss anchors. Isaiah's novel sequel brewed. Fractured arcs. Triad navigating quakes. Writing purged, but reality quaked. A weekend convergence in Forks. Rainforest hikes. Moss-draped. Primal. Cabin nights. Fires crackling. They vowed. Spans endure separation. Yet betrayal's echo resounded. August storm, literal, gale force trapped them. Power out, candles guttering, truth spilled. Elias confessed. Client pressure to tone down personal life. Emails hinting poly as risk. I defended, he said. But it hurts. Ezra admitted LA temptations. Flings rebuffed, but loneliness luring. Isaiah revealed doubts. Am I glue or just gap filler? Storm raged, emotions peaking. We're not fixed, Isaiah realized. We're fluid, human. Dawn broke clear, resolutions forged. Elias negotiating remote, Ezra prioritizing returns, Isaiah centering self-care. Fall's harvest moon witnessed growth. Triad therapy bloomed insights. A shared lease in Wallingford, loft expanded. Isaiah's book tour ended triumphant. Sequels greenlit. Holidays healed. Thanksgiving redux. Riley's shadow banished via closure call. By winter solstice, under the same heat lamp, they toasted. To spans unbroken. Love, humanistic span faults, not erasing but embracing. Seattle's rains nourished, roots deepening. The second winter wrapped Seattle in its familiar shroud. But for Isaiah, the chill carried a different bite. Not isolation, but the sharpening edge of commitment's forge. The Wallingford lease was a milestone. A craftsman bungalow with turret views of Green Lake, its bones creaking under triple occupancy, like a structure adapting to new loads. They moved in phases, Elias's drafting table anchoring the office, Ezra's vinyl collection spinning in the living room, Isaiah's bookshelves forming a library nook scented with aged paper and possibility. Housewarming was low-key. Lena's tamales, Theo's playlist of queer anthems, toasts clinking to foundations fortified. Daily rhythms emerged, intimate as elevations. Mornings. Elias brewing pour-over, precise as blueprints, while Isaiah journaled dawn light on the lake. Ezra stumbled in last, hair wild, commandeering the blender for protein smoothies that splattered counters. Evenings varied, Elias's quiet reads by fire, Isaiah's writing sprints, Ezra's impromptu dance parties pulling them into twirls. Intimacy wove through. A triad bath scented eucalyptus, hands soaping stories away, or paired nights, Elias's deliberate caresses contrasting Ezra's playful nips. But harmony hummed with undercurrents. Elias's forks negotiation dragged, firm brass citing team cohesion. Late calls from the peninsula left him drained, snapping over misplaced keys. It's stress, he'd apologize. But Isaiah saw the toll dark circles, sketches half-finished. Ezra's LA pulls intensified. A series option on his spec script, additions luring. Just scouting, he'd say. But suitcases lingered packed. Isaiah's world expanded solo. Adjunct gig at UW, lecturing on narrative architecture, students dissecting his books with fervor. A fellowship in Chicago beckoned, 3 months, MacArthur whispers, but it meant leaving the span. Go, twins urged, but eyes betrayed fear. Distance, their old foe, loomed. Crisis ignited in February's freeze. Isaiah returned from a UW panel to find the bungalow dim, arguments aftershock thick. Elias and Ezra in the kitchen, postures rigid, Elias gripping mug, Ezra pacing. You booked LA without us, Elias accused. Ezra shot back. Your fork's secrecy started it. Emails with that junior architect. Cozy. Isaiah's bag dropped, thud echoing. What emails? Heart plummeting, he scrolled Elias's open laptop. Threads with a colleague, Jordan. Flirty emojis. Late work drinks. Innocent. Borderline. Elias flushed. Networking. Nothing. But guilt cracked his voice. Ezra's eyes blazed. Like my texts to Riley? Hypocrite. The triad imploded. Isaiah. Betrayal's echo deafening. Retreated to the turret. Transparency was the clause, he said, voice steel. We vowed no shadows. Tears pricked. Not just the flirt, but the fracture it revealed. Trust's rebar rusting. Mediation came fractured. Dr. Patel's office, snow blanketing lawns, hosted emergency session. Betrayal's compound, she noted, Mundala's meditative. Elias owned. Fear of losing you both pushed me to seek validation elsewhere.
Ezra, jalousie blindée de me, laisse à sirène.
Isaiah, I'm tired of mending. Need equality, not equity. Homework. Radical honesty journals. Shared weekly. Pages filled. Elias's orphan abandonment terrors. Ezra's imposter fears in Elias's shadow. Isaiah's codependent wiring from Tacoma voids. Revelations bonded, Elias admitting fluid attractions predated them. Ezra his bisexuality's wilder swings. Isaiah his demisexual slow burn. March's thaw mirrored internal. Chicago fellowship accepted, but Isaiah deferred, prioritizing. Instead, a retreat. Olympic Peninsula cabin, pre-forks. Rain lashed eaves, but inside, fires roared. They role-played conflicts, laughter leavening pain. Made love in permutations, reclaiming bodies. You're my north, Elias whispered to Isaiah. Ezra echoing to both. Vulnerability's climax. Elias burning old emails. Ezra deleting contacts. Isaiah shredding doubt-scrawled drafts. Spring bloomed resilient. Bungalow garden planted. Tomatoes for Ezra's sauces. Herbs for Elias's teas. Flowers for Isaiah's desk. UW classes thrived. Students inspiring ARC's revisions. Elias's firm relented. Hybrid model. Forks bi-weekly. Ezra's script sold, but Seattle-based production. Yet external tremors quaked. At an AIA gala in Belltown, industry eyes lingered. Whispers of Hawthorne's arrangement reaching clients. A major bid tanked. Feedback veiled. Personal distractions. Elias spiraled, blaming Polly. Maybe we're the fault line. Isaiah countered at home, lake glittering dusk. Or the innovation. Human designs endure judgment. Ezra Halid, Fakying. We build our firm. Seed planted, Hawthorne Reed Ezra collaborative, boutique queer-led, focusing ethical builds. Summer's solstice tested. Chicago called again, irrevocable now. Departure loomed. Airport goodbyes raw. Hugs at SeaTac, tears salting. 3 months. Isaiah promised, boarding. Spans hold.
Absence amplifiée.
Texts wove daily. Elias's peninsula sunsets, Ezra's set photos, Isaiah's windy city skyline sketches. Virtual dates, wine toasts via Zoom, shared Netflix under blankets apart. But loneliness gnawed. Isaiah's hookups, bar encounters, fleeting stirred guilt. Confession call, explorations, per our clause. Twins affirmed, but hurt-laced voices. Climax crashed mid-July. Isaiah's reading at seminary co-op, crowd wrapped. When phone buzzed, Elias hospitalized. Car skid on 101. Rain slick, ribs cracked, concussion. Ezra's voice frantic. He's okay, but come. Isaiah flew red-eye, landing to hospital sterile, beeps steadying pulse. Elias, bandaged, grinned weak. Slippery roads, relief flooded. But Ezra pulled aside, pushed too hard, blamed us in delirium. Can't lose the span. Reunion in the room. Hands clasped over 4, vows renewed. Isaiah stayed weak, nursing the 3 a unit amid monitors. Discharge brought clarity. Life's quakes demand flexibility. Elias healed, hybrid solidified. Isaiah returned Chicago fortified. Fall's harvest reaped growth. Collaborative launched, first client, a community center in Capitol Hill, queer youth-focused. Designs flowed, Elias's structures, Isaiah's narratives, Ezra's visuals. Bungalow filled with models, laughter echoing. Thanksgiving. Expanded table, Kai invited as friend, Lena toasting expansive loves. Winter deepened bonds, holiday lights strung bungalow. New Year's under Aurora Borealis simulation, projections dancing walls. But humanism's depth probes shadows. January unearthed. Isaiah's fertility ponderings, surrogacy dreams, family blueprints. Triad discussed, fears surfacing, Elias's legacy voids, Ezra's wanderlust. Kids. Isaiah ventured, nods tentative but seeds sown. February's anniversary. 1 year leased, spans spanning. Gala for center groundbreaking, shovels in earth symbolic. Post-ceremony, under stars, Elias knelt. Not proposal, but pledge. Build forever? Rings triple, engraved lines converging. Isaiah, tears hot, assented. Ezra hooped, sealing with kiss. Seattle's faults? They spanned them human whole. The bungalow's turret became Isaiah's vigil in the hush of late winter. Green Lake frozen filigree under moonlight. The city a constellation of distant hums. The pledge rings. Simple tungsten bands etched with interlocking arches. Weighted his finger like vows etched in concrete. A tangible reminder that love's architecture demanded vigilant maintenance. The collaborative's launch had galvanized them. The Capitol Hill Center's groundbreaking a media darling. Queer-led firm reimagines community spaces. Clients trickled. Eco-lofts in Ballard. A trans wellness hub in the Central District. But success's shadow loomed, scrutiny sharpening. Elias thrived in the hybrid. Forks drives now adventures. Podcasts on queer history, calls home sinking breaths. Yet the accident's scar lingered, nightmares of skids. Waking sweat slicked. Hold me, he'd murmur. Isaiah and Ezra flanking. Bodies a bulwark. Ezra's production wrapped triumphant. Script accolades buzzing. But typecasting fears nipped. The wild twin, typecast forever? Isaiah countered with novel parallels. Arcs bend. Don't break. Isaiah's Chicago deferral paid dividends, UW tenure track whispers. Arc's sequel filming as limited series, his consultancy booming. But the triad's equilibrium teetered on personal precipice. The family talk. Over spring's first brunch. Avocado toast on the deck. Cherry blossoms dusting. Isaiah broached deeper. Kids. Not abstract. Real plans. Eyes met over mimosas. Elias's softening with longing. Ezra's widening with wonder.
Discussion unfolded layer.
Elias, orphan's heart, craved lineage. Adopt, or surrogacy, our story in a child. Ezra, footloose, hesitated. Travel first? See the world as 3, then 4. Isaiah mediated. Novelist's nuance. No rush, but in vision. Journals filled visions. Playdates at Gasworks Park. Bedtime stories of spans. May's bloom brought bounty, and betrayal's whisper. A client dinner at the herb farm. Woodinville vines heavy, turned sour. Jordan, the junior from emails, now collaborative hire, flirted overt with Elias, wine loosening. Isaiah witnessed across table. Laugh shared too long, hand on arm. Home confrontation brewed. Old habits. Isaiah asked, voice steady but eyes storm. Elias paled. Innocent. She's talented, pushing boundaries. Ezra, sensing rift, defended. Like my LA scout? We vowed grace. But tension crackled. Bedtime silences vast. The quake escalated when Jordan's email surfaced. Proposal for a side project Elias copied, bypassing triad review. Efficiency, Elias claimed, but Isaiah saw sabotage. Control reclaiming. Ezra exploded. Undermining us. Again. Twins clashed, bungalow shaking. Fists not raised, but words weapons. You always need saving. You always run. Isaiah, heart fracturing, called timeout. Space. Turret for me. Alone, lake mocking with ripples, he journaled fury. Betrayals not act. Pattern. Spans weaken unwatched. Dawn call to Dr. Patel. Emergency triad. Session scorched. Jordan fired. Elias owning insecurities lore. Felt small post-accident. Sought affirmation. Ezra admitting projection. His own LA temptations resurfaced. A co-writer's spark rebuffed but confessed late. Isaiah's vulnerability. Fear I'm the fixer, not partner. Tired. Crisis crested in raw pact. Full disclosure apps. Shared finances audited. Quarterly quake drills. Simulated conflicts for resilience. Forgiveness flowed slow, earned in X. Elias's apology sketch. A fractured arch mended gold. Kintsugi inspired. Ezra's playlist of amends anthems. Isaiah's chapter dedication. To spans that scar and strengthen. Summer's heat wave tested temper. Collaborative center progressed. Youth input shaping. Mural walls for stories. Quiet rooms for healing. Isaiah keynote at national conference. Humanistic builds. Twins attending. Pride beaming. But heat mirrored inner boil, arguments over AC costs. Trivial but telling control tussles. Getaway salvaged. San Juan Ferry. Orcas Island cabin. Kayaks slicing Salish. Seals barking chorus. Evenings. Cliffside fires. Telescopes charting stars. Confessions under Milky Way. Elias's bisexuality exploration. Therapy unveiling fluidity. Ezra's commitment fears. Post-Riley walls. Isaiah's demisexuality depth. Craving emotional rebar. Intimacy reignited. Beach twilight trysts. Waves lapping. Cabin threesomes. Candles flickering vulnerabilities. Whole. They whispered body's testament. Fall's equinox harvested maturity. Center opened. Ribbon cut by youth leaders. Isaiah's speech on mirrors to windows. Transforming reflections to vistas. Media lauded, but backlash nipped. Online trolls decrying woke architecture. Firm inbox slurs. Elias shielded, but Isaiah insisted. Own it. Human means flawed, fierce. November's chill brought blessing and bombshell. Surrogacy consult. Match found. Egg donor queer artist from Tacoma. IVF loomed. Cost staggering, emotions vast. Ours? Ezra asked. Hand on Isaiah's belly dream. Nods unified, but fears flooded. Elias's wreck trauma. What if I fail as dad? Isaiah's abandonment echo? Will they stay? Therapy armored. Parenting classes, wills drafted. Holiday lights twinkled hope. Thanksgiving with donor, circle expanding. Winter's solstice deepened devotion. Bungalow you'll log burned, ornaments multiplied. Tiny arch for future child. But climax crashed New Year's. Ezra's offer LA showrunner gig, relocation clause. 6 months, he pled, eyes pleading. Elias, go, we span. But Isaiah's gut nodded, echo of forks, distances compounding. Decision night. Lake frozen, arguments thawed to tears. Stay, Isaiah begged. Ezra wavered. Dreams here now you this. Choice made. Decline. Seattle anchor. Relief bound tighter. January's thaw. Embryo transfer scheduled. Wait agonizing. Collaborative boomed. National buzz. TEDx invites. Isaiah's series greenlit. Twins consulting sets. February's heartbeat. Literal. Ultrasound ping. Tiny flutter. Joy erupted. Tears. Toasts. Turret dances. Span of 4. Elias marveled. But humanism probes. Pregnancies strain tested. Isaiah's nausea. Mood swings. Elias's overprotect. Ezra's anxiety spikes. Arguments flared. Nursery designs clashing. Names debated. River for lake. Archer for spans. Crisis peaked April. Transfer success shadowed by scare. Spotting ER dash. Waiting room vigil. Hands clasped. Fears confessed. Can't lose this. Viable doc assured. Aftermath. Deeper bonds. Therapy fortifying. Summer swell. Isaiah's belly rounding. Collaborative center thriving. Youth testimonials. Space to be. Twins dote. Elias's kicks felt. Ezra's lullabies sung. Fall harvest. Baby shower. Community woven. Lena's gifts. Kai's sculptures. Names settled. Jordan Elias Reed Hawthorne unisex span. Winter's wane. Labor looms. Spans ready. Love's architecture. Not flawless, but fortified. Human heart beating. Labor's prelude wrapped the bungalow in anticipatory hush. Green Lake's spring thaw mirroring the internal surge. Waters breaking metaphorical and literal in the turret's witching hour. Isaiah's waters actual broke at dawn. A gush warm and insistent. Contractions rippling like seismic aftershocks. It's time, he gasped, hand clutching Elias's. Ezra already dialing midwife. Chaos choreographed. Bags prepped. Birthing playlist cueing Nina Simone's husky pleas. SeaTac to Swedish's birthing center blurred. Traffic yielding miraculously. Rain sheeting mercy. Hospital room became sanctum. Dim lights. Birthing tub steaming. Midwife Naomi. Doula legend. Queer mom of twins. Guiding with calm commands. Elias anchored head. Cool cloths. Whispers you're spanning worlds. Ezra feet. Massages. Jokes lightning gasps. Our little architects impatient. Hours stretched eternal. Contractions cresting waves. Isaiah's roars primal. Sweat slicked. Doubt crested too. Can't, he panted. Twins chorused. You are. Crown at noon. Pushes crescendo. Jordan emerged slick. Cry piercing. 5 pounds 8 ounces. A miracle compact. Naomi placed on chest. Skin to skin electric. Isaiah wept. Exhausted elation. Elias cut cord. Hands trembling reverence. Ezra snapped Polaroids. Tears blurring lens. Hours. They breathed triad complete. Homecoming blurred days. Newborn haze. Lake views lulling colic cries. Division instinctive. Elias night shifts. Steady rocker. Ezra days. Diaper guru with playlist pacifiers. Isaiah bonding. Nursing novel-like. Collaborative paused. Partners covering. Lena's check-ins. Center humming. Parenthood's architecture revealed cracks swift. Sleep deprivation frayed. Elias's snapped quiet at Ezra's coo-songs. Isaiah's resentment at pump interruptions. Arguments brewed midnight. You're hovering, Isaiah accused Elias. And you're distant. Ezra fired at both. Baby's wails amplified. Jordan's reflux a siren. Testing spans. Therapy rebooted postpartum. Dr. Patel plus pediatric sage. New foundations shift, she affirmed. Journals evolved. Gratitudes amid gripes. Elias's bath rituals. Ezra's midnight feeds. Isaiah's story times. Community buffered. Playgroup at center. Queer parents swapping war stories. Summer's heatwave swaddled growth. Jordan's first smile. Gap-toothed. For Ezra's rattle shake. Melted phrase. Collaborative reconvened hybrid. Playpen in office. Designs diaper-scented. National Award for Center. Humanity and Habitat. Isaiah accepting. Jordan gurgling audience. But betrayal's specter stalked autumn. Jordan's fever spiked. ear dash. Diagnosis ear infection. But in panic's wake, old fears unearthed. Elias confessed driving doubt. Fork's accident flashback. Terrified I'm cursed guardian. Ezra admitted envy twinge. Baby's eyes, yours and Elias's hazel. Mine? Isaiah reassured. Mosaic. Remember? All hues. Resolution in vulnerability. Family therapy. Ancestry kits tracing roots. Elias and Ezra's Oregon oaks. Isaiah's Tacoma steel. Blended. Not broken. Isaiah penned. Sequel chapter. Winter solstice marked half-year. Yule with Jordan's first tree grasp. Ornaments tiny fists batting. Collaborative expanded. Youth wing funded. Isaiah's series filming Seattle sets. Twins cameo. Climax crested January. Storm gale force. Power outage blacking bungalow. Generator hummed. But Jordan fussed, triad fraying, blame game over forgotten supplies. Always unprepared. Elias accused Ezra. You plan us to death, Ezra retorted. Isaiah, mediating, snapped. Enough. This span's cracking under us. Flashlight circle, truths blazed. Elias, fatherhood exposes. Afraid I'll fail like dad. Ezra, feel sidelined. The fun uncle not core. Isaiah, guilt weighs. Did I trap us in this build? Catharsis. Hugs, howls, Jordan's coup diffusing. Dawn restored. Resolutions radiant. Elias delegates. Ezra commits core. Isaiah releases guilt. Spring's renewal. Jordan's role. Giggles echoing. Center's wing opens. Murals Jordan inspired. Summer solstice. Beach alky, Jordan's toes sand first. Waves lapping legacy. Collaboratives gala. Awards cascade. Isaiah keynoting spans eternal. Love's design defying quakes. Fall's colors deepen devotion. Jordan's first word. Ambiguous delight. Claimed triply. Novel trilogy caps. Eternal elevations. Epilogue triad with child. Healing arcs. Winter's embrace. Second pregnancy pondered. But pause chosen. Savor span. Bungalow. Once cage. Now cathedral. Laughter lines. Love's load shared. Humanism's gift. Imperfection's profundity. They spanned not flawless facades, but resilient ruins rebuilt. Seattle's rains? Nourishment. Faults? Foundations for grace. Jordan's eyes, hazel gold mosaic, mirrored truth. Love builds, breaks, binds eternal. In quiet evenings, turret views, Isaiah held them. Elias's hand steady, Ezra's wild, Jordan's tiny. Our blueprint, he whispered, and in that hush the world held.